Well, actually, Google, as a lot of people might know, is a really good tool of connecting people. And so what I did was when I graduated from high school, I needed a place to go and study college. I Googled places in the U.S. and somehow Berea College popped up. And so I applied to it, I got accepted, and I was here the next fall.
You will find some people who are ignorant, and you might find some people who are like very open-minded, educated.
I think one of the biggest advantages, and for that matter, disadvantages of being an international student here at Berea College is that number one, you can't really go home, say for Christmas break or for spring break or any other breaks, summer for example.
Important to realize that there's much more competition for admission to Berea College among international students than there are among domestic students. So really, by definition, people have a much stronger background. International students tend to be terrifically polite, very, very well-mannered, and very slow to challenge others in class.
For everybody's information class, currently today in the United States, Middle Easterners or Arabs or whatever race we are classified as, which is so difficult to classify anyway, are probably at the lowest end of the list. You know, there comes a couple races above us, but we get the best treatment, if you guys get what I mean. And so I had lovely stories with race, but I honestly don't care. I was never offended by anything or anything said to me or anything done to me. Because to be honest with you, I think if you get offended by a racial slur or a racial action, you actually make it happen. So if someone calls me, which is what a lot of people call Arabs, a sand nigger, does that make me a sand nigger? No, so why am I making a big deal out of it?
Well, physical traits, they usually have an accent.
Americans have a lot of stereotypes about Middle Easterners, and terrorists, that's the number one. And I guess that was highlighted by 9/11.
Definitely say they dress differently. They have more, I feel they have more of an eye for fashion and for style. I feel like they dress more sophisticated and classy than you don't generally see international students walking around in sweatpants and a sweatshirt or gym shorts. You usually see them very put together, very nice looking.
I have found that many of them know English perhaps better than I do, which is extremely sad.
They think we're all Muslim of the Islamic religion. We can marry 4 wives. We can't really, but I wish. Some Muslims do, but it's very rare. It's actually really frowned upon.
Well, one stereotype about international students here on campus is that they are, academically, they are smart. I don't know.
Traditionally, always, for me, always ready for class, don't miss classes, are A students, tend to be somewhat reticent in class, a little shyer in terms of sharing perspective, and often I think that has to do with language differences and also cultural differences. You know, being a guest, especially in the early years of an international student's experience.
International students in food service. They sit on 2 sides of our cafeteria is divided up in 2 sections, and I guess it's tradition for them to sit at the first 2 tables on each side. The left side is more common for them to sit at because there's more room. I sit there 3 meals a day with them, and I probably learned more in the 30 minutes there that I'm sitting at lunch eating with 20 different people about heritage, culture, history, society just in general. The ideas that come from everywhere, and that 30 minutes is amazing, and I have learned so much sitting with them, more than in the classroom.
They don't. Well,
Internationals never grind. Yeah, I noticed that a lot. But I mean, that's a whole part of different cultures. I mean, they dance different, but I've seen internationals try to grind, but it's not the same thing.
yeah.
Actually, when I was coming to the U.S., I was sort of expecting a little bit of a culture shock, and so it was that anticipation that sort of dulled out any effects of some of the day-to-day culture shock that I might have experienced. But there's this one really,
Use of curse words in language, or I would say the pervasiveness of curse words in language. I think I've been around some people and curse words like they use it as part of the normal language, and it seems like it goes that.
It's happened through my host family. You know, there is a host family program in Berea. You know what? It's better for you to say that you say that you are Syrian and not Iraqi. Because I was living in Syria, so they said it's better like to say Syrian, and I was like, what is the purpose of saying that? They were just, then people could be nicer to you, because if you're gonna say you're from Iraq, people might be mean to you, and I was so shocked by what they said because that was my first few minutes or hours in Kentucky, not in the U.S., in Kentucky. And I was like, oh my god. I told them, no one gonna let me deny my nationality or where I came from. And if people don't like what I am, it's their issue, it's not mine.
time, a friend of mine came over to my room. I was on my own, and he was sitting there. We chatted a little bit, and I said, "Hey, how can I entertain you?" What I meant was, would you like some tea? Would you like some cold drinks? What can I do to make you more comfortable here? My friend had interpreted that in a different way, and later on turned out that the friend was gay. And so when I said, how can I entertain you, he had other notions completely different from what I meant.
Couple funny sentences. For example, I always say I'm an international student from Lebanon, and everybody says Lebanon, Kentucky. I'm like, international student from the country of Lebanon.
He's like, oh, do you know how to use debit card? A debit card is like a plastic thing. You put it in a machine to get money or something. And I was
one of the actually funniest sentence I've ever heard. A friend of mine was like, you know what, man? You're so lucky you're you're Middle Eastern. He started with a joke which ended up being serious. He said, you know, if there's a bombing or something going on, you know, you'll get a call, you know, on the hotline, and they'll warn you. They'll say, listen, we're planning this, you know, watch out from this area. Which was a funny joke, sure, ha ha ha. But then he's like, you know what, on a serious note, you're very lucky because you speak Arabic. And I'm like, why? He goes, you know, if you're on a plane that's going to be hijacked, you know, you can speak Arabic, you speak their language, so you can talk yourself out of it. And I was like, talk myself out of what? I'm going to be like, Mr. Terrorist, since we speak the same language, can you stop right here? I'll get off right here and you can go ahead and bomb the rest of the plane, you know? So that was really one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
They were surprised when they knew that I was a Christian. They were, so when did your family convert to Christianity? Or maybe just you converted before you came to the States? And I was like, Christian in Iraq were way before Muslims themselves, because we have a lot of civilizations.
Students become my most important teachers in my classes. They are my most prized students for the international perspective that they bring into the classroom. And for that, I'm deeply grateful.